Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to
Back.
welcome back. Welcome to Tomato Talk Live. I'm Lauren,
I'm Jen.
and this is our 1 year anniversary, isn't it, of this
Yes,
show?
yes, it is. We did one a year ago in July.
We did. That was our
Yep.
our very first, and it's been so much fun. We come to you if it's your first time watching, welcome. It is a great episode to watch as your first episode because we have our best friend on the show. I mean, we're best friends, but
Uh-huh.
the last time he was on, he became our best friend. I'm not sure he knows that, but it's true.
He's gonna.
He told us we were his
We'll make
friends.
sure
So
today.
we have Craig LeHoullier on the show
Yes.
who, I mean, summing him up in a couple
Mhm.
words is crazy. I mean, he's the author of Epic Tomatoes, which is
Yep.
and gardening, growing vegetables in straw bales.
Yeah, I've got the
But
Straw
he's
Bales ones
yep.
here.
But he's also the co-founder of the Dwarf Tomato Project, which is a movement that is it's now they've ended the project itself because it's really taken on a life of its own, but it really has helped those without gardens who in urban environments to grow tomato like full-size tomatoes in short stature
They're so adorable, some
scenario.
of them.
They are. And he and Katrina Nusky Small are the brainchild behind that. And he's just an all-around nice guy. He's known as
Oh yeah.
NC Tomatoman on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, so he's on the show with us today to talk about tomato genetics,
Yes, and
which is,
breeding them.
and this was something that you guys, those of you that watched last time, he was on our April episode, I think, Jen, right, Jen? April?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
so.
Something you guys requested. But anyway, if it is your first time watching, we are an interactive broadcast. We love to bring all of you into the conversation, and we put comments on the screen as much as we can. Hi, Heidi. Glad you're here. Teresa's here.
Hi everyone.
Terry's here. When Craig is on, it's busy, so we may miss some comments. We have our producer extraordinaire Michael here with us, who will try to we'll try our best to get all the comments on. But we have a lot to talk about today.
Gonna
I
be
mean,
exciting.
Craig's got some slides to show us, and me, being a very new breeder, I have a lot of questions, and I know you guys have questions too, even if you're not a breeder, just understanding the genetics of tomatoes,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot more to it than you've ever even thought of. I'm
The-
sure.
And since I don't know, and I was telling Jen and Craig prior to the show, I'm not a science person, which makes breeding tomatoes like a little tricky. Like I know there's the right way to do it. That's not the way I do it. You're like, this one looks good, Um, but anyway, please comment with your comments and questions. And we will try to get to as many of them as possible. Next month, we're late this month. Normally we're the first Friday of the month, right, Jen?
Yes.
But this month we
That was like
couldn't.
July 4th weekend. And then last weekend I went to a tomato festival. So we had to do it this weekend.
A tomato festival with no tomatoes.
Yeah, it was, well, there were some tomatoes, but there was no like tomato pie contest. I was like, where's the tomato pie contest? Okay, I won't
Yeah.
complain.
And the weekend before was 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
So we're here now, but we're going back to the first Friday in August, which means we're going to be back in like 2 or 3
2
weeks,
weeks.
I think.
Yeah. Is it 2 weeks?
August 2nd
Yeah,
is our
2
next
weeks.
show. And we have the best guest ever, us.
Yeah.
It's just going to be Jen and I
And
talking tomatoes.
I sure hope that my table looks the way it does in August as it does right now, because we could just sit and slice tomatoes and show each other all of our tomatoes.
I think that's what we should do. I
Yeah,
think that's what
that
we
would
should
be so
do.
much fun, and
Oh,
talk about.
Keena's here, our
Oh, hello,
co-moderator.
Keena.
Wanted to pop in and look a little before bedtime. Hi, Keena. Glad you're here. Keena's in Norway.
Yeah,
Oh, and our friend
minutes
Bill
late.
Yoder's here. Looking forward to Craig.
Oh, hello,
If you didn't catch, we had our 1 year birthday party yesterday of our group, Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap. If you aren't a member, we would love to have you. It was our 1-year anniversary party. And if you didn't catch that, I said, if you want to order from Bill Yoder, he's got seeds up for sale. He's going to be accepting orders for about 1 more week. So please get those in. And if it's your first time watching, we have some great prizes to give away. John Kramer is giving away a hardcover and a softcover copy of Epic Tomatoes. And Craig has agreed to include some very rare seeds along with those. So
Oh,
in
wow.
order to be eligible to win, you need to type in at some point during the show #tomato. And I think that's it. Anything else, Jen?
No, let's get going.
Let's get going. Let's bring him on. Here we have Mr. Craig LeHoullier. Yay!
Hey, I think my blush is faded by now. Way too many kudos, guys. Too bad the hair blush is faded, but the hair hasn't grown back. So, we can't have everything. Gardening is supposed to be fun. Today, you guys were on my Instagram Live, and that was fun.
Yes.
Even when I'm looking at diseased plants, sometimes you just have to laugh. You don't cry when you garden, right? You just do your best and just take what you have. But thank you so much for the opportunity to come back and do this again. Last time I was here with you guys, it was one of the highlight of my online year. So
wow.
Yes,
Our pleasure.
We are friends, and we'll be doing this a lot. And happy anniversary!
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And Bill Yoder and I first met. So when my book came out, Story sent me on, a tour of speaking here and there. My first talk was in Decatur. And after I talked, Bill was one of the first people that came up. I signed his book and we chatted. Then we went to lunch and we've been friends ever since. And so it's so great to have him online. He was integral in our dwarf tomato breeding project. So, hey, Bill, how are you, buddy?
And the nicest guy, just like you, just a really humble, wonderful guy. He says hi back.
Yep.
Great to see you.
I've got him. It's kind of like old home week here. And I'll be curious as to how many people that endured my 45 minutes of banter today are here as well. I know my friend Vicki Wallace is on. So, crossbreed. Anybody who's here that hasn't figured out I'm on Instagram Live every Friday at 4, join me, because today it was raining. The dogs are running around. We get to see diseased plants. We get to see tomatoes. So it's all fun. This is just great.
I'm going to put up your Instagram handle. If you're not, that's it, right? at NC Tomatoman. That's his Instagram handle. I was telling you before that I loved watching, and it was really comforting to me to see that you've got a little disease too. Like even the great Craig LeHoullier gets disease.
Anybody that says that they have perfect garden is absolutely lying, because that's just not how it rolls. It's we can't control it. We can't control weather, heat, all of the little agents that blow in to fall onto our tomato leaves, all of the stuff that's in the soil we don't see. So we always hope for the best. And you know what? 1 out of every 10 gardens may be spectacular. 3 of them may be unmitigated disasters. The rest of them are pretty darn good. And that's usually good enough, isn't it?
Yep, yes, I think so.
For sure.
So last we left you, you were sharing with us that you were drastically scaling down your garden this year. Yeah.
It's been so fun.
Has it?
It's been fun because I can actually get to each of my plants. I've got 16 plants, so I can remove the disease foliage. I can remove the suckers and enact the staking and suckering program that I wanted to implement for the year. Usually you start off and you're disciplined, and then all hell breaks loose because tomatoes are coming in. Have I photographed them? Have I tasted them? Have I saved seeds? Things start dying. You start going to bed stressed because your garden is making you stress. So this is my least stressing garden since probably 1987 or 1988, when I joined the world of the insane and started planting far more than I could deal with. all of that was great fun because I learned a lot. I saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of varieties. This year, I know what we love, my wife and I, and out in the garden. Today, I was reading off the flavor ratings of things we've tasted, and they were all 8.5 or 9s because we planned it that way. Let's knock our socks off every time we eat a tomato, and I haven't done that in years, and it's just a lot of fun. And I don't
Yeah.
have a table full of tomatoes, and I'm not looking for the fruit flies or the leakers. I have just enough to be able to deal with maybe for a few more days, and then they will fill the
Wow.
table. Even 16 plants will fill the table.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So
I'm sure.
anyway, that's here. See, I'm already blathering on, but anyway.
No, that's mine and Jen's MO, blathering on, believe me.
I already just learned something new. The leakers. I know
Well,
exactly what you're talking about, but I've never heard them referred to like
I picked a leaker just today, a
that. I
Jarson
am
5.
like, I'm sitting here on my table is covered in tomatoes, and there's a couple leakers.
they stink, man. I mean, you can find them by either using your nose or the trail of the fruit flies, and they stain. And so my wife would get really mad because I'd put tomatoes on our wooden table and they
Oh,
leak, and that leak really stains. So now they're all on glass plates. I had 13 cups of seeds behind where I am now on those shelves.
oh, I got some too.
And I got up this morning and opened the door because we have cats upstairs, and we don't like them here or there. And I'm thinking, what is that awful smell? And it's like
Oh yeah.
it's the fermenting tomato
Yep.
pulp.
Mhm.
So they're
Yeah,
now in my basement.
my husband was messing with my cat, saying, "You stink," and he was sitting with the cat right beside my
Yeah.
jars. I was like, "It's not the cat that stinks."
Now that is a pretty rank smell. I think the only thing worse are potatoes that go bad in your closet.
Oh, yes. Been there, done that. I
Oh,
like the fermented tomato
there's so
smell.
much worse. Potatoes are worse. Like,
Potatoes are bad.
Yeah,
oh God.
so through
Um,
high school, I worked in produce in a grocery store. And when I first started, my job was to go through 50 or 100 bags of 10-pound potatoes and pull out the bad ones. And so often I would stick my fingers right into a
Ugh,
rotten potato, and
it's the worst.
I'd come home and my mother would say, "Shower now. You just smell rotten."
That is
Yeah,
nasty.
not a good thing to do before a date, but you know.
Bill says he can't let his wife watch this. I'm assuming about scaling back.
My wife is so pleased, and she's also pleased because in our 5 years of gardening in Hendersonville, I always put the cherry tomatoes in the worst part of their yard because they're like weeds, and
Right.
they didn't do very well. And I like cherry tomatoes until the big slicers come in, and then it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
But this year, Sun Gold got its own straw bale, and Egg Yolk and Mexico Midget are sharing a straw bale. There, you saw it today. There must be 75 ripe Sun Golds.
Yeah.
So now I said to her, get out there and pick them. I did what you wanted. So
I heard you talk about a Sun Gold Captain Lucky cross,
yes, I
and I
did.
nearly passed out.
What I need to do is, it's almost ripe. I need to save seeds from it, and we'll get into this today with our genetics discussion. I need to do a test germination to make sure the cross took. So, and this will be an entry into this. So Captain Lucky's potato leaf, Sun Gold is regular leaf. I always do when I'm using a mismatched pair to cross, I always use the potato leaf as the female,
Oh,
because if you save seeds from that, regular leaf being dominant, if the test planting comes out regular leaf, your cross took. If the
oh,
test
that makes
planting
sense.
came out potato leaf, your cross failed, and you're
Good
just saving
tip.
seed.
Okay.
So in our dwarf project, we were always using potato leaf. Well, we were always using the dwarf as the female. Same type of an idea. Dwarf is recessive. You cross an indeterminate onto a dwarf, save seed from that fruit and grow it. If it's indeterminate, your cross took. If it's dwarf, your cross failed. So we'll get into some of the indicators.
Great.
But you don't have to do crosses to, in a way, do some tomato genetics, and we'll cover that once we get into slides. So it's but yeah, I don't know what we're going to get from that. So if I were to
Yeah.
predict, so
Cynthia.
Captain Lucky is a 1-pound green red
Oh,
swirl.
yes. One of my
Mhm.
favorites.
Yeah, Sun Gold is orange. So Sun Gold has yellow skin. That's dominant. The orange flesh is going to be dominant over the green flesh. So I think the hybrid will be a 2-ounce red or orange, very ordinary looking tomato. That will be the hybrid.
Which will probably taste insane.
Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
And when you cross great heirlooms, 90% of the time you'll get something equally great, but a few times, but you don't let that bother you, because the goal is the other end of things. What happens when you grow out the saved seed? The flavors will reappear. So it's
Okay.
yeah, I'm making it, dipping into it is making this sound complicated, but it's just so much fun.
It's
And we'll get into
exciting,
that. Yeah.
exciting, and I didn't realize that about making the potato leaf female. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So where do you want to go?
Yeah, where do we wanna go? Kristen Butler says, "So glad I'm growing a lot more dwarves because all have been rock stars in my garden despite the hotter and drier than usual summer."
Uh, you know, I had a friend come over the other day and said, "Where are your dwarfs?" I said, "I'm almost going non-dwarf this year just to catch up with my favorite indeterminates. And
Right,
next year I may go all dwarf." She's
right,
like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I can." She,
right,
we each have the total freedom to plant whatever we want in our garden each year. Except it's good to have a little bit of a strategy behind it so you can learn something. So that's part of the planning process. What do I want in my garden this year? My favorites, unusual colors, new heirlooms, dwarfs. That makes even December and January fun. Sitting
right,
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
visioning through what we're going to have in our garden.
yep.
I think
Lisa,
that's even more fun than the actual gardening. At least this year, thinking back about all the excitement in my planning and where I was going to put everything, and then when the heat is like destroying my garden, I'm like, yeah, I want to go back to planning.
I know, I know.
If you're a total geeky nerdy about this stuff, sometimes harvesting and eating the tomatoes is actually the least fun part. And the most fun part is choosing, planting the
Mhm.
seeds, watching them
Mhm.
germinate, deciding the germination percentage and what the leaf shape is. Yeah, a lot of the fun stuff really comes up front. But
Mhm.
you have to be really deep into this to find that some of your
Yeah, I
favorite parts.
mean,
I think
we
I learned
do.
that this year. I learned
Mm.
that this year. Like,
We
I'm
do,
going to
you know, the
enjoy that.
dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jen, I didn't mean to
I
cut
was
you
just
off.
going to say, like, I enjoy that because I can control a lot of that.
Yeah,
Once they're outside, I think you said it, Lauren, yesterday,
yeah,
you're just at the mercy of Mother Nature.
yeah.
Oh gosh. And
That's one.
gardening is probably not the best hobby for a control freak.
No, true, true.
Or it can be helpful because it forces you. You have to just, you can't do anything. So,
Yeah, but I think the other thing it teaches you is when you get to the end of the year, how much you think you do that you don't. And for me, the weakness is pictures,
mhm.
labeled pictures. So I grow all this stuff and I'm like, I must have great pictures of everything, but you
Mm,
don't because it's hot and you harvest it. Oh, I'll get the picture of it later. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, you get to the end of the year, you've grown 100 tomatoes and you don't have good pictures for 80
mm.
of them. And even the pictures you do have, you don't know what the hell they are
Yep,
because
yep.
they're unlabeled. So you think you'll remember. So yeah, every year there's like a part of this process that just escapes you because of the terror of the harvest, because of the table of the tomatoes that's putting that pressure on you to do something with them, right?
That's I'm
Yep.
a bit neurotic. I am controlling about the pictures because I worry about that too, and I like to be able to remember and show and all of that, but sometimes I'll have grown something and you're right, I won't have taken a picture. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no. Now I've gotta
Well,
regrow it just so I can take a picture."
well,
I'm
I
doing,
mean, so with the dwarf book that I am still working on, we've got 157 varieties. I do not have 157 glamour shots of all of those tomatoes. And that's going to be frustrating to me. So I will be calling on friends. Hey, do you have Fred's tie dye? Do you have, you know, it's because there's no way I'm going to put 157 tomatoes out there and take beautiful pictures
No.
with them.
I have a
Can't do
beautiful
it.
one at Summer Sunrise.
Oh, I love that tomato. I love that
I
tomato.
took it yesterday. I was like, that's a nice tomato.
You
A
do,
lot of
actually. I think you gave that to me, Jen, to share.
Baronia is a good one that
That's
I
a
got.
really good one. Yep.
Bundaberg rumballs. I got a good.
Yeah.
There's some of my dwarves that I
Yeah.
think that the plants just aren't doing well. Like, and the fruits aren't very big.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to be like bigger. What's this one? Delta dwarf. So I'm thinking that it's just the plant
Yeah.
issue.
That's probably not one of ours. I don't know that one.
Delta dwarf.
Nope.
I thought it was. No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Isabel. Dainty Isabel?
Oh, Dainty Isabel is, yeah. That should be, let me see, that's going to be a 3 to 4 ounce round pink tomato.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
not
got it
3 to
there.
4 ounces. It's very
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
So some of them turned out kind of dinky, and I think it's
Well,
just the plant.
That's my
there's
Bundaberg
one.
from
Oh,
last year.
yeah, that was discovered by one of our growers in Australia, actually, and that's a really nice variety. But you're bringing up a really important point that does relate to genetics, in that these 157 varieties have been worked out and grown in certain areas by certain people in certain years, and selections have been done for them to do well there. What we really don't know yet is which one of those 157 are going to thrive or fail in any given area of the country. That's information to come over years and years of growing them. So, Summer Sunrise, you're doing great with it. In Raleigh, I had a really bad year with it. Somebody in Seattle may find it a total failure. We will know all of this. Well, we may know it, but we don't have a mechanism to collect it all. So it will be
Right.
anecdotal information like these discussions we have now, or what people pass on to me through, um, through the Instagram lives and stuff. We're all learning. They're so
Yes,
new. It takes years and
forever.
years and years. Yep.
There was a question from Lisa Gee. She wants to know, would you share you and your wife's favorite tomatoes that you grew this year?
Oh gosh.
You regrew favorites though this year, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing new.
Well, yeah. So our absolute favorites of all time are always going to be Cherokee Purple, Cherokee Chocolate, Cherokee Green, Potato Leaf Yellow. Rejoined the list last year. It became a favorite in 1990, and I just lost track of it. And I had to actually ask the seed savers for frozen seed that I sent them in 1990 to return to me to grow it last year.
It's
And
called
now,
potato leaf yellow.
and it's actually orange, and it's
Hmm.
it's similar in color to yellow brandywine, but it yields better. It's a little bit rounder, and it isn't quite as tart. The flavor is a little bit more well balanced across the whole spectrum of flavors. Captain Lucky is a favorite.
Me too.
Nepal, Abraham Brown, another one of Millard Murdoch's. He did Captain Lucky, and he also did Abraham Brown. Polish is a great tomato.
I heard you talk about that one today, and that's not one I'm familiar with either.
Yeah, first got it in 1988 from Bill Ellis in Pennsylvania, and he received it from a woman at a farm stand who brought it over from Poland. And I grew it with next to Brandywine, and it outperformed Brandywine completely in terms of yield, and was the equivalent of flavor. So it's potato leaf, it's pink, and it's hard to find because there's a zillion tomatoes with the word Polish in the name.
Right.
So Mike, I think Mike listed it at Victory, and if you look at the description, it says brick red. That was the description it came over with, but it's actually pink, and it's just a really, really good tomato.
I told you during your live, you mentioned, I know we're getting a little off today, but my friend James Maxwell is always sending me seeds that he knows I will like, and he sent me seeds for Earl. And then he sent me the write-up from Victory Seed and talked about, you said it's a 9 out of 10. And I'm like, well, that's going on the grow list next year.
It's really good. And
have you grown that, Jen? Earl?
No, I haven't.
It's a really great tomato. And I think that was the last one I showed today. It's my most well-behaved plant. It's 7 feet tall, pruned to 4 stems, and it's got at least 35 tomatoes on it with not a trace of disease. So it's it's having a really good year. What I'll be doing the coming week or two is pop on Instagram lives when I have 3 or 4 tomatoes to taste. I'll put my little camera in a tripod and just slice it, show the slice, and you get to see live, like you do, Jen, what I think of it. And I don't have a poker face. If I take a bite of a tomato and it's not good, I'll be like,
yeah.
Jen doesn't either.
I don't either. Oh man.
But nothing I taste this year should be bad because I did stack the deck. Whereas in other years, there've been a few that they won't be invited back into the garden.
Yeah. I just had a spitter one, but Ben wouldn't let me spit it out.
Today?
No, this was it last night. It was last night. So I did not want to chew it up, but he was just like, swallow it, swallow.
Was that my coyote that you were going to spit out?
No. This was one of the naughty tomatoes. I won't tell you which one.
Coyote is such a polarizing tomato.
It is. I was telling Jen yesterday. People either love it or they don't.
I did not like it.
there is a musky,
Yes,
unusual overtone to the background of it underneath the
yeah.
sweetness that some people pick up on and some people don't.
Oh,
I
I
picked
love
up
it.
on it and I
Yeah.
did not. And I was just like, no, no, no. And I kept putting more like in the
Mhm.
taste test. I think you see me taste like 4 or 5. I was like,
Yeah.
it's got to be, this one's got to taste better. This one will taste better. I'm like,
You know, the coyote has the same flavor in it that I find in German Johnson and in some bicolors like pineapple. And it's like, I'm not too crazy about the flavor. And what I don't know if it's our individual genetics that allow us. It's kind of like only certain people can smell the asparagus pea smell,
Yeah.
or taste
Mhm.
Or
broccoli is bitter
cilantro.
instead of sweet, or cilantro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
am a
yeah,
soapy dishwater cilantro person.
yeah.
I
I
can't
like
stand this
cilantro
stuff.
too.
My wife craves it, so I've got a
Uh,
lot of it.
yeah.
I've got a lot of it growing.
So Adam Dempsey says, I'm still waiting for Craig to finish his My Tomato Collection tour on his blog.
Actually, if you look at my blogs from is it last year or the year before, I took people through the first 500 tomatoes of my collection with complete history. So you got to look back a little bit. There may be a tag on it,
Really?
and it could be tomato collection, but it took me forever to do. I think I worked on that after I republished all of the Off the Vines that I did with Carolyn. So I started that blog in 2015, and every now and then I look back and think, "Oh my God, I've got a lot of stuff on that," and then I leave it and don't look back. But
Right.
man, there's a lot of stuff. So yeah, use the tags and see if you can find stuff, or I can find it and send people a link.
So where
So
should we start with genetics? I mean,
let's show
I have
some
so many
slides.
questions, but
Yeah.
you just put up your first slide and
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I'll
Impressive.
orient you. This is my garden this year, and on the right are a column, the front of which is 5 types of bush beans planted in 3 rows in 4 straw bales that were pushed together. Now, that was a week ago. We harvested every bean. I cut all the plants down. I didn't find a single one. So my wife and I got an A+ in picking right beans, and I just replanted that. The bales are still fine. Behind those are cucumbers. What you can't see behind that are 2 eggplant, 2 shishito peppers, and 2 tomatoes. To the left are 4 summer squash that are still going. I've never seen Zephyr pump out squash like it's giving us this year. And
I
then
just got seeds for that one.
ah,
I think I'm gonna do that for like my fall summer squash.
what's wonderful about Zephyr is it is firmer than most typical summer squash. So if you steam it, it actually maintains really nice firmness, but it's still got a very buttery, sweet flavor. Anyway, that's what my garden looks like this year. Previous years, there would have been 2 other columns with tons of plants. It would have been 2 plants to a bale, and everything just was crazy. So let's move on from there. Oh, here we are. So we started the Dwarf Project in 2005 as a concept, and then that date, I actually have that date wrong. I think that's 2010 that Patrina came over because our project was moving along, and she was couch surfing. She is one of these independent people who just gets on a plane, comes to her country, and stays on people's couches for a month.
Good
And
for
she
her.
decided, since she was coming to America, she would stay on our couch for a week. And she attended our tomato palooza, and every tomato on that table is a dwarf in progress, because in 2010, which is when this was taken, we really hadn't released more than a handful. So we had 200 people at the event. Mostly what Patrina and I did was smack people's hands when they were trying to grab seeds, because none of these were ready for prime
Oh,
time yet, and everybody wanted to grab seeds.
that would be me. I'll just
Yeah.
take this.
Take all the Ziploc baggies out of your pocket.
Okay. So let's see what is next.
So for those of you that don't know, Patrina Nusky Small is the co-founder of the Dwarf Tomato Project with Craig. She's from Australia.
Mhm.
Ooh.
So this kind of summarizes it. Every tomato on this plate is a dwarf, so a plant that is half the height of an indeterminate. We formally ended it in December of 2023 because I finally digested after Christmas and I needed to do something. So I felt, hey, I'll end the Dwarf Project. We had done enough, and it does still tick on. So anybody who watches my Instagram lives or send me emails know that we're still finishing up things. But as a big splash, as a major effort, you have to end it sometime, because sometimes you can't start something until you end something. However, In the 19 years and counting it's been running, we've had over 1,000 volunteers from all 50 states, 25 countries, and we have 157 in the Victory catalog, and probably will be joined by at least 10 more next year. So Dave Whitinger, the guy from Dave's Garden, who now owns Victory, he still wants to continue being the main company to release our dwarfs. So that's kind of, and you know, some of those tomatoes on that cutting board are 12 to 16 ounces. So to,
Yeah, they're
so to
big ones.
produce a 1 pound tomato on a 3-foot tall plant really kind of blew our mind.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
But the colors and the flavors. So I know the one in the right front has got to be summertime green. And
Oh.
what is that big yellow one on the left? I don't know. It could be CC McGee. Could be Dwarf Mr. Snow. I think
Oh, Jen
Ferticai
gave
is the
me,
bicolor.
Jen's growing CC McGee. She sent me a
Ah.
Mine
picture of
doesn't
it.
look like that.
It should be a 1 pound white. So
That's
yeah.
what mine.
That's not a 1 pound white.
What was your
No.
seed source?
What's that?
What was your seed source on that? Who sent you the seeds?
I'm not positive. I did place a big order from Victory, but maybe those did not.
Yeah, that's
I'll have to check.
That's cross seed. And you know what happens? When we were in the Veterans Healing Farm greenhouse last year, I grew out 65 dwarfs from Victory's packets. And of those 65, 3 of them showed as cross. Now, the good news is 62 or 65 are fine. The bad news is 3 of them were incorrect. So I let Victory know, and they have to regrow and recull those. Look for what. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So before we get into a little more about breeding, dwarfs are cool. And the dwarf gene does 3 things. It thickens the central stem, makes it very stout. It crinkles the foliage. So the 2 sets of leaves on the bottom are non-dwarf, and you can see they're relaxed. They're kind of out there, regular leaf on the left, potato leaf on the right. And the dwarf analog of regular and potato leaf is above. Crinkly, they call it rugose foliage or crinkly foliage, that makes the plants just extremely distinctive. So to start an initial dive into genetics, dwarf is a recessive trait. Indeterminate or tall growing is a dominant trait. Regular leaf with the teeth, like on the lower left, is a dominant trait. And potato leaf, which is smooth leaf edges like on the lower right, is a recessive trait. Knowing just a few traits can help you decide if you're going about things the right way, as we'll get into as we look at the next slide. Okay.
Bill wants you to know his CC McGee from Victory was 1 pound and white this year.
So you got the right one. It's really delicious. It's one of the best white tomatoes.
Yeah.
That I've ever had. So this is me, who is 6 feet, standing next to Cherokee Purple in Raleigh in July. This is what indeterminate tomatoes do. They grow very, very, very tall. So that tomato is 8 feet tall and still has 3 months of growing season left, which is why you really need a strategy. Do I top this thing? Do I stick it in a cage? Do I let it droop? That's the dominant trait. 95% of tomatoes are indeterminate. So dwarf.
What percentage, Craig? 95?
About 95, yeah.
Okay.
So the very first dwarf really was known in 1860s, but nobody really did much with it. It was a variety called Chateau de Lay, had ordinary red fruit on it, kind of went out of the seed catalogs within 10 years. The first determinate variety was Cooper Special from the 1920s. So usually these genes that produce tomatoes that are not indeterminate happen through mutation. And if a gardener or a farmer is lucky enough to notice it, once a mutation happens, usually if you save seeds from that plant, it will continue on. So mutation is very different from a cross. Mutations kind of stabilize right away. Crosses give you a mess to play with for years.
Mutations are stabilized right away, is that
They
what you
should
said?
stabilize right away. Yeah.
Ah,
Yep. Now, the plant at the upper right is probably taxi, or it could be Roma. In a determinate, the leaves are not rugose and crinkly. In fact, the plant looks just like an indeterminate plant until it gets about 3 feet tall. Then the growth stops. It shoots out flowers everywhere. It produces 20 or 25 pounds of fruit that ripen almost all at the same time. And then the plant dies and you pull it. So Roma, taxi, they're really good for canning tomatoes, because when you're canning, it's great to have a whole bunch at the same time,
Mhm.
whereas indeterminates spit a few out as the plant climbs. Dwarfs, to me, combine the best features of indeterminate in that they fruit until frost with the abbreviated height of the determinate type. So, so they're really pretty cool. But in terms of genetics terms, both determinate and dwarf are recessive to indeterminate.
Hmm.
Now, next slide. And we'll have plenty of time for questions. This is what I was getting to. Before I delve into the slide, there are two ways really to breed tomatoes. One of them is very passive. And let's say you have brandywine and a lot of growing space, and you grow 50 plants, all from the same seed source. And you see one plant is very, very different. It ripens 2 weeks earlier. It's twice as productive. So if you select just that plant out of the 50 plants, what you've done is you've selected genes that may be a cross. We don't know, but it also may be a mutation. Or since some of these have been around for a long time, it may be still some noise that is still drifting in there, some genes. So to start creating a new tomato from that brandywine, you would just save seeds from that single different plant. Now, that was a groundbreaking idea back in the 1870s, because everybody thought, oh, I'm going to pick just the first fruit on a plant, and that's going to help me develop an earlier tomato. When in truth,
Oh,
the genetic material in every tomato on a plant is exactly the same. So if you pick the first fruit and save seeds, you'll just get the plant that will do what it
okay.
typically does. And what Livingston did is he would grow 2,000 plants in the field, and he'd hone in on just the plants that were different. And he would use those as the starting points as his new varieties. That's called single plant selection. That totally revolutionized the development of tomatoes. So that's kind of what we did with the Dwarf Project, only we intervened. We created the cross, and then we grew out the bunches and started looking for the plants that we wanted. So you don't have to do a cross to start on tomato genetics. You can just look in your garden and be observant. And if you see one plant that is very different, like your CC McGee, that could be, if that's a really delicious tomato, that could be the starting point of a new
There you go,
variety.
Jen.
You would
Your
just
first
want to
tomato.
grow out a few, share them with friends, have them grow out a few. If it was a hybrid, everybody's going to get something different. But if they're all just like that, then you're well on your way to creating a new variety.
You've got your first tomato, Jen.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think there's another one too that what is
Yeah.
that? Groovy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think I got a variant of that too.
Yeah.
So when people get a big tomato and they're like, save seeds from that 3-pound tomato, it doesn't make a difference, right?
Doesn't make
It's
a
the
bit of
plant.
difference. But
Okay.
if you look through seed catalogs in the 1860s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that's what seed companies would start charging you more for seeds, saying, we save these seeds over the largest tomato on the plant, and therefore we're going to charge you 10 cents more. Even though, so yes, all of it. So if a bee hasn't come in and done genetics for you by moving pollen, every seed in every tomato on the plant contains the same genetics material. So when you're doing your seed saving, I like to save from the first fruit low on the plant, because the bees have been much, much, much less likely to visit my flowers. It's cool out, there's other things blooming. The further up the plant you do your tomato seed saving, you start increasing the likeliness that you're going to save cross seed. Now, tomatoes typically pollinate as they open. The anthers brush it. We're going to do a little tomato sex here, but the anthers brush against the pistil, and that's the act. The pollen sits on the pistil, goes into the ovary, and creates a tomato. If the bees intervene before the anthers have brushed against the pistil and they bring pollen from another variety, that's when you can get a cross. But even if you save seeds in the middle of August, you're probably still getting 70% purity. But that means you're getting 30% cross seed. And the whole thing about isolation distances kind of bothers me. If you want to save seeds from multiple varieties, just grow them 100 feet apart. Has anybody ever seen how fast a bee can cover 100 feet? So it's going to go buzz your corner and grab pollen off your sun gold and buzz back and put pollen on your lucky cross or something. So I really have either gone to bagging blossoms if you need to be 100% sure, or just going to the lowest set fruit,
I
because
like
the
that.
genes in those are going to be pretty much exactly the same.
Oh,
So
good to know.
let's go back. Plant habit. These are the genes. Indeterminate is dominant to dwarf or micro dwarf, or determinate. Micro dwarfs are a bit of a mystery for me, and I'm glad Bill is on, because I have some questions about the genetics of micro dwarfs. Apparently, they're much more complex than dwarfs. Regular leaf shape with the teeth is dominant to potato leaf or the carrot-like leaf. And anybody who's grown silvery fir tree or ambrosia has seen those really fine. It looks like a carrot plant
And
instead of a
our friend
tomato plant.
Heidi Dolan,
Yeah,
I'm growing out her carrot mini
yeah,
right now, which is a new micro she's
yeah,
working
yeah.
on. That's beautiful micro with carrot leaf. Yeah.
Yep. Leaf color. Green is dominant to chartreuse, yellow, or variegated. And yes, there are chartreuse leaves and leaves, whatever. Um, and it came as a surprise. A woman named Charlotte Mullins from West Virginia sent me her family's mortgage lifter, and I planted 20 seeds. This is in 1990, and 5 of them had chartreuse colored leaves.
Oh,
And it always has. And even if you save seeds from the green leaf plant, the next year you get about 5 leaves. Now, if you grow the chartreuse leaf plant, you get this enormous 30-foot tall plant with huge pink fruit. And from that point on, they're all chartreuse. But we've integrated that with a few of our dwarfs. Yellow leaf comes from the old variety Honor Bright, and we've moved that into some of our dwarfs. And variegated comes from the variety Variegated, or some people call it Splash of Cream. But those are all uh, not. It's the leaf. The green is the dominant. Skin color really comes in yellow or clear. Now, when you look at a tomato, you think the skin must be the color of that fruit. But if you carefully peel the skin away, it's yellow or it's clear.
I didn't know that.
And so what gives the tomato its apparent color is the color of the skin over the color of the flesh.
Huh.
So a yellow skin over red flesh gives a scarlet tomato, like Big Boy, Better Boy. A clear skin over red flesh gives a pink tomato, like Brandywine or German Johnson. It's really kind of cool. So if you just carefully peel skin away and scrape any flesh off, you'll find it's either clear or it's yellow. The only
Neat.
difference between Cherokee Purple and Cherokee Chocolate is Cherokee Purple has clear skin and Cherokee Chocolate has yellow skin.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yep.
Interesting.
And yellow is dominant. And that's why anytime you use a yellow skinned parent in a cross, your hybrid is going to have that yellow skin. Flesh color is really fun. Red is dominant to all the weirdo colors like yellow, orange, bicolor, white. What I don't know is what the hierarchy is within those other colors. So if you cross an orange with a yellow, do you get yellow or orange? If you cross an orange with a green, do you get an orange or a green? So I'm sure there are books where they've worked a lot of these genes out, but I'd rather discover it myself.
Yeah.
I'd rather be Gregor Mendel with my peas sitting in a monastery garden playing with this stuff. Now, fruit size, dominant, small is so incredibly dominant.
Really?
So when I crossed Mexico Midget, which is pea-sized,
Right.
with Summertime Green, which is a 1-pound dwarf, the hybrid was a sun gold-sized cherry tomato.
Mm.
So it took that big 1-pound tomato and it downsized it to this little cherry tomato. And the teensy family, which is so Dwarf Eagle Smiley comes out of that, almost is entirely cherry tomato. So we kind of lost the large fruit size has been kind of buried by the dominance of that small fruit. So if you're doing crosses, if you use a cherry tomato, understand that that's going to be really, really dominant and probably controlling in what you can come up with at the end of the day in terms of fruit size.
Interesting.
Yep. Now, a few genes are partially dominant. So if you cross a typical tomato with a heart, the hybrid will be slightly hard. So that's called partial dominance. If you cross a striped tomato with a non-striped tomato, your hybrid will be faintly striped. And if you cross an antho tomato with a normal tomato, your hybrid will be faintly antho.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes it kind of cool.
I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought it would be the other way around.
I know, it's really cool. So just by this list gives you enough to think about. And what you do is you look in your garden, you think, wow, I love bicolors. I like this or I like that. What happens if I cross this with that? And if you understand this chart, this list, you can probably start predicting your hybrid, but not always. So in the Dwarf Project, Patrina created a cross called Tipsy, one of our favorite crosses. She crossed Elb, which is an orange tomato, the color of yellow brandywine, with Dwarf Golden Champion, what was bright yellow. Orange times yellow. The hybrid was fire engine red.
Really?
And so there were buried genes somewhere in there that expressed themselves. Keith Mueller, KC Tomato, actually
Mhm.
explained it to me one time, and I forget what it was. But that cross of yellow times orange, we've gotten pink, purple, white, yellow, orange, and red tomatoes out of it. And so it's
Wow.
extremely diverse. So let's see where we're going to go.
So
I love this. Cynthia says they have honor bright. When you grow that plant, you think it's diseased, but the mature leaves on that plant go bright yellow, and it's perfectly fine.
interesting.
Yep. So, and why don't, if we want to stop here and you can ask some questions, you just kind of let me know how I can be most helpful
Yeah,
here.
let's see if we Darla wants to know if seeds from a Mega Bloom tomato viable.
If it produces a tomato, they sure are, and they probably won't produce any unusual number of mega blooms the following year. It's just early in the year, I find, particularly with large fruited heirlooms, that first low cluster on the plant will produce a mega bloom. A lot of times the flower is so complex, it's kind of fused blossoms all together, and it doesn't pollinate very well. If you are lucky enough to get it to pollinate, you'll have one of the ugliest tomatoes you've ever seen, but it's fine. You can save seeds out of it, and there's no genetic propensity in that to produce any more than the typical number of mega blooms. I think I've found a weird exception this year in terms of blossom end rot, in that I talked about it a little bit today. I've been growing Cherokee Purple since 1990. I've probably grown it 150 times. It has never had blossom end rot. It has always been really nice shaped. At the farm, from the same seed, we've got 8 plants. They're all perfect. It is the worst blossom end rotter in my yard. I pulled 35 fruit off it that were no good. And
Yeah, I've
it,
never had that with Cherokee Purple
no, and
either.
it's being grown the same way, the same treatment, in the same location, and it's the only one. So my conclusion is this seed, that plant is producing tomatoes. The seed has a genetic fault of a tendency to blossom end rot, and I'm not going to use that to grow future versions. I may do a test grow once just to prove my theory, but I'd rather use not if like, so that plant's going to have 50 fruit on it. And if 40 of them have blossom end rot, you got something wrong with the
Right,
genetics of that
right.
variety. So
Because sometimes plants will have it in the very beginning, but
yes,
then it grows out.
and this is not growing out.
Somebody asked a great question on your
Yeah,
Instagram today, which is, can you save seeds from diseased plants?
yes. And the answer is yes, with a big caveat. Is the disease one that will worm its way into the seed coat, so that if you save that seed, the plant will have a tendency to come down with that disease? So there is no one single excellent source that I've found on the internet that says definitively, here's a list of all tomato diseases. Here is a list of those diseases that can get into the seed and be carried on. So you can do fermentation, which will undoubtedly remove some of the diseases, and you can do something like TSP or bleach. It's so you can stir them in TSP for 1 hour, and that mimics the process of doing a fermentation for 3 or
Is
4
that what
days.
Jen does an OxyClean thing? Is that what
That's
TSP
it.
is?
Yeah,
Okay.
OxyClean will do kind of the same thing.
Okay.
So that will remove some diseases. So I don't. Gardening for 40 years and having saved thousands and thousands of seed, invariably, I've saved seed from diseased plants just because I need the seed,
Right.
and I've grown them the following year, and they've been absolutely fine. So what I would say, if you're really worried about it, if it was like a dire disease that took that plant down, you just need some seeds, do a hot water treatment on the seed before you plant it, which is get the seed immersed in water, hold it at 122 degrees for 25 minutes, then take it out and plant it. And that pretty much will remove the vast majority of diseases that you have on that seed.
And this is before germination, instead of germination?
That's treating before you plant. So instead of like
Oh,
taking
I
that
see.
seed and planting it, you would take it, hot water treat it, and then plant it.
Okay.
Now, if you were to hot water treat a bunch of seed, I don't know how that would affect the germination, but you're
Yeah.
getting it wet, you're heating it up, and even if you were dry it again, I would imagine that would reduce the viability of that seed. So it's probably better to do a hot water treatment just before you plant that seed. But I really do wish a definitive piece of research would appear on the internet saying all the diseases, these can all be seed borne, these can be removed using fermentation, these can be removed using bleach, these can be removed
Right.
using TSP, and it just
Right.
doesn't exist right now. Um, so
No, somebody joined our group a couple days ago and they put out a nice post. They've never traded before. And she said, for herself, she saves seeds for years, just like dries them on a paper plate.
yeah,
She wanted to know if we had any kind of rules about fermentation, which we don't officially, but since we're trading all over
yeah,
the world, we kind of gently suggest
yeah,
that people do,
yeah.
you know.
And the other thing about just saving seeds on paper plates, is if you're sharing seeds with people, invariably they clump. When you just kind of dry seeds down, you end up peeling them off a paper plate, and there's little pieces of paper or
Mhm.
newspaper on it. And the nice thing about fermented seed is they're so clean. You
Yeah.
dry them and you rub them, and they're individual, and you can actually send somebody exactly 20 seeds. Whereas
Fresh,
when
light,
you're
and fluffy. That's what I call them.
fresh,
Fresh,
yeah,
Yeah.
light, and
fresh, light, and
fluffy.
fluffy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cynthia wants to know, do you think there's a problem with some seed companies passing off Blackberry Chris as being Cherokee Purple?
Probably black creme. Um,
Oh, right.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know that one. I got
yes.
new yeah, that one is
Yeah.
mistaken a lot, I think.
Well, I know definitively there is, and the reason I know is that MIT actually went and tested genetically
That's
about,
great. I think you shared this
yeah,
on our last
about
show, but please share again.
yeah, Cherokee Purple from about 45 seed sources, and they had genotyped some of the varieties, and it turns out one third of the companies were selling actual Cherokee Purple, one
Mm.
third were selling Cherokee Purple that was actually black Krim, and one third of the companies were selling neither. They had no idea
Mm,
what it was. And so with the preponderance now of heirlooms and so many people jumping in and saving seeds and so many companies getting involved, there is a lot of mistaken seed out there. And I think I'm kind of so I know I sent it to Johnny's, so they're good. I know I sent it to Southern Exposure. In fact, they were the ones that released it, so they're good. Um, and I know Seed Savers Exchange has my seed, and Victory has my seed. Other than that, all bets are off. I'm sure
right.
some of it's fine. One easy way to tell is Cherokee Purple should not be as flat as Black Krim. It's not globe, but it's kind of on the round end of
Right.
oblate. And when it cracks radially from the stem outward. And black Krim, when it cracks concentrically,
Okay.
which is and
Good
so
tip.
if you've got Cherokee Purple and it concentric cracks, and there you can also tell looking at the internal structure. And I'll try to do an Instagram live sometime and show what the internal of. Actually, I do have one on there. I did a 1 minute reel the other day showing a cut Cherokee Purple, so you can see. And black Krim looks very, very different. It's got a big central core, and the seeds are around the outside like a Ferris wheel. Where Cherokee Purple, the seed cells are spread throughout the flesh, and they're much, much smaller.
Mm.
So this is the ultimate in tomato geekery.
Oh, yeah. We're
Where,
all
yeah.
over it though, Craig. Believe
Uh-huh.
me, you're with your people. Um,
uh,
Linda says she learned to ferment from your book, Epic Tomatoes.
Oh, cool. Well, let's try another slide, and then we'll get
Yep.
some more questions,
Yep.
because there'll be a ton of questions. So how do you confirm a successful cross? So first, to do a cross, I should have included a slide, but it's maybe the next time I come back, we'll talk a little bit specifically about doing a cross. But it really is finding what you want as your pollen donor, which is the male, and what you want as the acceptor, which is the female, and collecting pollen from the male, but make sure that there's a flower on the female that is almost open, but not completely. It's still a little bit white shade of yellow. It's not butter yellow. carefully with tweezers, you pull off the anthers. And this is tricky to do.
Yes, it is, especially on micro dwarfs. Take it from me.
If you do it right, you can actually get the whole anther cone. The key is you don't want to break the little skinny, fragile pistil sticking
Right.
out or style, I guess you call it. And then you just carefully dip the tip of the style into the pollen. And then I like to cut 3 or 4 of the calyx leaves on it to shorten them, to mark that fruit. And I like to put a twisty tie. And then if a fruit develops, I like to put a little X on it with a Sharpie, because that's 3 fail safes to make sure you've nailed that
Right.
fruit. So that's how you do a cross. And I apply the pollen 3, 4, or 5 days in a row, because I've de-anthered that flower a little bit before full maturity. And you can collect pollen and let it just sit in your garage for a few days. It will be absolutely fine. So
So you just do the tip, Craig? You don't do the entire?
No, just the tip.
Oh, well,
And you
that
gotta
would have, that
Yeah, and you
explains
gotta
a
do
lot
it
of broken pistils.
and you gotta do it you gotta do it really carefully. You push down with your finger and just tip it lightly, because I've broken off many a pistil
Oh,
by
many.
being too tough.
Yeah.
So I use the
Good
dwarf
to
as a
know.
female, because the successful cross, you can tell automatically. So I do the cross, here comes a tomato, it ripens, I save the seed, I plant them, it's indeterminate, my cross worked. It's dwarf, whoops, my cross didn't work. Expect, and this is Punnett square stuff. So let's say you save seeds from the hybrid you create, and then you start growing those saved seeds. 75% will be indeterminate. And in our project, we just tossed them because we weren't looking for indeterminates, but we must have gotten rid of so much great stuff that we didn't test. 25% will be your dwarfs, and they're really easy to tell. They're half the height of the indeterminate with a thicker stem right off the bat. Then it gets really fun. If you have a potato leaf as a parent, 25% of those 25% of dwarfs will be potato leaf. So we did a cross this year with Dwarf Zoe Sweet, which has chartreuse potato leaf foliage and pink fruit, with Dwarf Walters Fancy, which has variegated potato leaf foliage and white fruit. What we're trying to find is a chartreuse variegated leaf potato leaf dwarf. So
Wow.
we are looking for the needle in the haystack,
Yeah.
but I'm going to save a ton of seeds. So I'll be inviting people to help me look.
I'm
And
signing up.
yeah, I know. So to stabilize something new, and this is, Bill will know a lot about this, it will take up to 6 to 10 generations to stabilize something you've identified as great in the F2. So let's say you've done a cross and you've got this beautiful half-pound orange tomato with regular leaf foliage. Regular leaf is a little bit tougher to stabilize because the recessive potato leaf still keeps wanting to pop in. The more recessive genes you work with, the quicker it is to stabilize it, because once you've got them, you've got them. So once you've got those dwarf potato leaves, every seed you save in the F2 from that point on will be dwarf, and it will be potato leaf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Interesting.
One of the hardest colors to stabilize is your typical Better Boy color scarlet, because it's dominant and the recessive things keep wanting to pop up in it. That's why we have so few great red dwarfs, because the yellows and the pinks and the greens and the whites were all much easier to get stable.
Can you
Now,
explain to our viewers that may not know, we looked at the difference, how it looks between potato leaf and regular leaf, but why would you want one versus the other?
For garden coolness factor.
Okay.
GCF.
Some people say it's less prone to disease and all of that. Do you believe that?
It is. No, because each tomato variety has such its own distinct personality that will interact in your garden in that season with your weather, depending on how you treat it. So I just layered variable on top of variable on top of variable. Carolyn Mail swore that potato leaf varieties were less disease prone. I've not found that. I grow lots of potato leaves, and they get just as much septoria
I'm
leaf
finding
early blight.
I have more trouble with potato leaf this year
Yeah.
for some reason.
It's very variety specific. And so you could have a potato leaf that fights, and it's part of what that question that came up that we talked about of inherited tolerance, or maybe I talked about it today. Some of these varieties that have been around a long time, say Cherokee Purple, that's always one of the healthiest plants in my garden, because if it has truly been in existence for 140 years or so or more, then it will have learned to tolerate certain diseases that appear in the climate that it's grown in. And Cherokee Purple seemed to hail from Sevierville, Tennessee. I'm in Hendersonville, right over the border. It loves to grow here. And I can have half of my garden go down to disease, and Cherokee Purple does not get as much septoria, does not get as much early blight. Again, we don't have that master table. Here are all of our favorite heirlooms. Here are the diseases they're prone to. Here are the diseases they tend to resist, because that work, they're heirlooms. They're not patent protected. There's no money in it.
Right.
And companies want to do research in things that they can protect,
Sure.
things they can patent. And this is my big bugaboo, right? Truth and research versus commerce. Boom.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff doesn't get done because there's no money in it. And
Right.
so us volunteer amateur gardeners are the ones that do it. And the more information we can pass that on anecdotally through these into seed companies. But that was a great question. And I'm just going to address this last point because see if Bill chimes in. I have found that microdwarfs are really complicated. So I crossed Cherokee Purple with a microdwarf. The hybrid was determinate. And I'm like, that's interesting. Holy shit. And then when I saved seeds from that, I got some variegateds, I got some determinants, I got some microdwarfs, I got some indeterminants. And I've talked to Dan out in Colorado, somebody who was involved with microdwarfs, and Chris Kafer. These are tricky to play with. I think the reason there's not a lot of microdwarfs with large fruit is because of what I said at the outset, that cherry tomato genetics is so dominant that it's very tough to break. Because I would love to see a mortgage lifter on a 12-inch tall plant.
Yeah. I'm actually in my own very simplified thing. That's what I'm aiming for with breeding microdwarfs. Right now, our producer Michael backstage, he's breeding micros too.
Yeah. What I would suggest is
Bill says he's only worked on micros for 2 years. Did not like anything flavor wise. Perhaps I'm too impatient.
No, Bill, you speak wisdom, my friend, or at least it's wisdom that I share with you. I did not develop a real big interest in microdwarfs for 3 reasons. Number one, in the South, they're so dense, the foliage disease would just destroy them before they had a chance to do much. Number two, the flavors I could never get to be that great. And I think it's because the balance, they yield so heavily that the balance of fruit to foliage throws the photosynthesis way off, and you can't get enough internal plant chemistry going to develop the flavors that you get in a Cherokee Purple. And I think the other thing was the small fruit size. Now, I am so thrilled that people like Heidi and Justin and other people are just totally enamored because, you, Lauren, get the largest fruited micro you can find and breed it with something like Cherokee Purple, and then select for maybe, it may take you 5 years, but you should be able to size it up a little bit and bust through that limitation put on by the, and use me as a consultant all you want.
I will.
I'm not a botanist. I just have a scientific way of thinking through these problems. It may or may not work, but
my latest cross, which I'm growing the F1s out now, is a micro called Mighty Mini that I crossed with Dwarf Purple Heartthrob.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
We'll see.
That is a great cross because you're using an 8 to 10 ounce heart shape. The heart shape will come through.
Will it?
Oh yeah. You will easily get heart, and stripes will come through. So your hybrid will be a heart shaped stripe.
Can't wait.
I think we're I think, what did they say in Louis? It's going to be a beautiful friendship here. It's the last line of Casablanca, I'm thinking here.
Yep.
Anyway, do I have anything left? Oh, this is just an example on so on the left is Cherokee chocolate. You've got that dark crimson interior with the green gel that gives Cherokee Purple and black crim and Abraham brown, that coloring, with a yellow skin. That's why it's a brown tomato. On the right, you have Dwarf Mr. Snow, white flesh, clear skin. There's the hybrid in the middle, an ordinary old red tomato. Why? Because it's got the dominant traits are, and it's regular leaf. So it got the regular leaf from Cherokee chocolate. It got the yellow skin from Cherokee chocolate. It got the red flesh from Cherokee chocolate, but the deep crimson is recessive. So that didn't show. Now we've said that this is the Chalky family, Chocky. We've run out of names. There's only 7 Disney dwarfs, and we haven't worked this totally out, but we have brown, purple, green, white, and red tomatoes that have come out of this. We just haven't finished any of them yet. So anything I talk about, if anybody wants to play with it, we have so much unfinished work, and it's just, I'm always looking for people to
Well,
send seeds
I'm
to.
pretty sure if you just saying that now, we're gonna have lots of people that
Yeah.
would like to help grow things out. That's
Good.
we're a group of a bunch of tomato heads.
I'm all
who love
for it.
this.
I'll dedicate an entire bed to something.
All right. See, is that the last slide I've got?
No, I think you've got a few more.
Okay. This is just to show the kind of diversity we found in the Dwarf Tomato Breeding Project. So yellow of Sweet Sue, and so Sweet Sue, the family, we crossed Green Giant with Golden Dwarf Champion. Patrina made that cross. That's the Sneezy family, and Sweet Sue came out of that. Speckled Heart, I crossed Speckled Roman. Oh, what did I cross it with? We've got 102 families. Anyway, we get the stripes of Speckled Roman with a nice heart shape. I think I may have used Dwarf Scarlet Heart to do that one. And then Fred's Tie-Dye was done by Vince LaValle in California, and that's a cross between Dwarf Wild Fred, which is a purple, and one of Brad Gates' stripes, maybe pink Berkeley tie-dye. And then Uluru Ochre is what happens if you cross a purple, like Cherokee purple, with an orange, like orange heirloom. You end up with the first black orange. An orange tomato that has that duskiness.
I wondered how that
So
color
pretty.
came about.
Yep, that's how you get it.
pretty this year.
So you can cross a purple or a brown tomato with an orange or a yellow, and you should be able to get a black orange or a black yellow, which I've never seen yet, but they should be able to exist.
Neat.
So let's look at the last slide, and then I want to leave lots of time for questions. There it is, Dwarf Purple Heart Throb. Yeah, so that was Dwarf Purple Heart times Berkeley Tie-Dye Heart. That's how Vince got the heart shape into it. And I love the metallic green coloring. It's just so cool, and it's got that deep crimson interior.
Yep.
So if that's the end of the slides, then I'd like to one more.
You got a couple more. The Teensy family.
So that's the Teensies, and Justin out in Wisconsin finished off. This is Mexico Midget Time Summertime Green. That's Dwarf Eagle Smiley on the right, and then we haven't named the green or the white ones yet, but they're really good. We've got a chocolate, which is Irma's Highland. We've got a pink that's Poppy's Pink, and we have unnamed white and greens that need to be finished. And next, yes, we've started playing around with that.
Beautiful.
That's Dwarf Walker's Fancy. And I noticed somebody made the comment, sometimes the variegation does fade a little bit as the plant gets into the heat of summer,
right.
But a lot of times it will come back as the weather cools off.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
And you also get purple pigmentation on the stems with the white and green variegation as well. So they're just
yeah, I can kind of see that on there.
Yep. And we have we played with antho only a little because I'm still waiting to try the first antho tomato that completely and utterly knocks my socks off. Sergeant Pepper, I thought last year was the best I've tried.
Yeah.
That was quite good. I still haven't found a Cherokee Purple intensity 9 in the antho phase. And the worst tomato I've ever eaten is what is
Black
it called?
Beauty?
Indigo Rose, which
yes,
which
I've
is
heard that.
the refined version of Oregon State PSU Blue 20, which is the only spitter I've ever done in my entire life.
I grew OSU Blue.
Yep.
Dances with Smurfs and Black Beauty all in one season. I'm like, what is this stuff? Yuck.
So there may be something in the anthocyanin that gives the tomato a little bit of bitterness.
Yeah.
We did one in the Dwarf Project called Dwarf Mocha's Cherry, another called Dwarf Mocha's Plum, and they're pretty good. They're still not, they're still not in my favorite tomato category, but I felt we need to enter the dance somehow. But they're fun to use as breeding partners. And
they look sexy on Instagram, so they're very popular.
They're very pretty.
Do you know, it's
just
funny.
a little on the top, I don't mind,
I know.
but when it's very heavy, it tastes like soap to me. I just don't like it.
I think it tastes like lighter fluid.
So So I actually, what was I going to say about that? Yeah, they'll come up with one someday. I've never used a color filter in any of my Instagram pictures. 'Cause I even go to that length of trying to be honest with people. It's like, these are my tomatoes. This is what they look like. Here they are. So
Right. I
truth in
appreciate
advertising.
that.
And this is what my garden looked like today. You'll see on the left is a poor Dwarf Zoe Sweet times Dwarf Ultra's Fancy hybrid that is only good now to give me the tomatoes I need for seed saving. That has fusarium wilt really severely.
Hmm.
The beans have been pulled and replanted, but here we are getting into late July, and 90% of my garden still looks pretty
Yeah.
good. In another month, this may look half yellow, but we'll find out.
Right.
I'll show it. I show it really happens.
I appreciate that too. I was actually telling Bill Yoder recently, and I know I've talked to Keena and Jen too. It's a huge pet peeve of mine when people use filters. I want to see what
Oh,
a
yeah.
tomato really looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
need a filter on a Nanas Noir. That thing is just gorgeous on its
it is.
own.
Yeah,
It's
Captain Lucky, same deal.
yeah,
Haley,
exactly.
Haley asked an interesting question. So Rufus Rainbow and Polish Bling, you tell me. They're at about the F4 generation. You've got a lot of recessive traits in there. I know that variegation is stable. You may see a potato leaf in with Rufus Rainbow, and if you do, the name for that will be Lucky Bling. But Rufus Rainbow should be an 8 to 12 ounce yellow with red swirls that should taste really good. And that's named for my friend Rufus Edmonston, a North Carolina politician who's often on a radio program they invite me to do in the Raleigh area all the time. And he's never had a tomato named after him. So I said, okay, Rufus.
Ah,
And Polish Bling. So I created that one by crossing Blues Bling with Little Lucky. So you've got the variegated foliage, the purple, the potato leaf, and the bicolor. And that's how we ended up with the variegated bicolor. And Polish Bling was from crossing Polish with Blues Bling, and that should be a potato leaf, variegated leaf, tomato that looks like Cherokee purple, and they should both taste really good. So let me know what you get.
Oh,
sounds great.
wow.
So ask away, gang.
Yeah,
We still have
ask
them
away.
for like 20 more minutes. Ask
Yeah.
away.
My brain hasn't melted yet, which is surprising considering how much I've talked tomatoes to. My wife she
Nick,
can't even listen anymore. She's
you
like,
can check out Craig's website where his blog is, craiglehoulier.com. And again, on Instagram, he's NC Tomatoman.
yeah. Lauren, you got any other genetic questions you want to pop at me that you had written down?
Let's see. This is, yeah, I guess this is sort of genetic. So I was told years ago by continuously saving seeds that I grow, like say a Cherokee purple that I've grown for 20 years, does it acclimate to my environment?
It would if, so this is a controversial subject, and there's a word called epigenetics that may play a part in this, but I'm not sure I'm sold at that happening with this. What may be happening if you're growing multiple Cherokee purples out each year is that you're doing, without even thinking about it, you're doing some selection. Let's say you grow a handful, and I'm like, well, that plant's doing really well, so I'm going to save my seeds. By doing that, you may be adapting it to your area through doing seed selections for the best one you grow each year. So
Okay.
you're doing like a tiny scale of what Livingston did with his field of 2,000 varieties.
Mhm.
So I don't think the seed changes and adjusts to your area so much as either your growing conditions are making it happier, or you are doing some little mini selections and maybe doing some genetic shifting a little bit just in your selections of one plant or another.
Okay. How
But
about
it's a
you,
great
Jen? Do you have
question.
any questions? I can go back.
Somebody asked a really good one that was put up on the screen there for a second. Michael K or Kelly
Let me,
something.
our producer,
Yeah,
Michael from Backstage. I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
it too. Let me,
Ah.
there it is. Thanks,
So,
Michael.
so dominant. Every tomato will have. How does it transfer? It's that whole process I said, whether you're selecting for the dominant or the recessive. So uh, let's say a tomato like Brandywine. It's potato leaf, it's indeterminate, it's got red flesh, but it's got clear skin. So as you're saving Brandywine, you're maintaining the dominant trait of red flesh, but you're also carrying along 3 recessive traits: potato leaf, clear skin. And the other thing you're maintaining is the dominant trait of indeterminate. So every tomato is going to be a mix of all these. And your most dominant tomato is going to be a tomato like red brandywine. So you've got the yellow skin, the red flesh, the regular leaf foliage, and the indeterminate growth habitat. Dominant, 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 dominant. And it's just kind of funny how it all works out. I think it's more fun to try to build in as many recessive genes as you can.
Yeah.
And so so you can, you can think out of the box. I want a chartreuse variegated carrot leafed, potato leaf, carrot leafed, white tomato with antho. You can get really silly with this. And some of these you can create. You can't do it with one cross. You have to do it in building blocks. First, we're going to create the antho white with the carrot foliage. Then we're going to cross that with the chartreuse, this, that. So you just need to get out your paper. That's how I decide what to cross, is just writing all the tomatoes in my garden and then thinking, what would be cool to combine and why would it be cool? I think you picked up, Lauren, a really good one. It's like, if I know that Cherokee purple color mixes really interesting with orange tomatoes, I can create that Uluru ochre color.
Yeah.
What other color can I create? What if I cross Cherokee purple? Well, I did cross Cherokee purple with Lillian's yellow, and we found pink and we found yellow, but we haven't found the black yellow yet. So you'd probably have to grow out about 50 or 100 plants to find the really tough ones to find. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned this in your live today too. So I'm growing dwarf purple heartthrob for the first time this year, and it's fantastic. But it has a little bit of a thick skin. Now, the person I got the seeds from said she didn't remember it being thick for her. And you mentioned this in your live today regarding thick skin. It may not necessarily be the variety. Is that right?
So thick skin can be several things. It can be a genetic attribute. Some people think sun gold actually has a bit of a thick, chewy skin, but it also can be the effect of environment, and high temperatures will thicken a tomato skin.
I didn't know that.
Yep. It's because the tomato's it's trying to protect itself and maintain the water, the liquid that's inside of it, rather than having it go out. Lisa just asked a great one that I didn't get to talk about today: flavor genetics.
Oops, sorry, Michael. I think we tried to put it up at the same time.
So here are the hardest attributes to stabilize: maturity dates. Because you have to grow out large populations if you're trying to create an earlier tomato, because you don't know if it's the weather that year. You don't know if it's the location in your garden. Disease is so hard because you have to know you have the disease in your garden uniformly, so that if you're trying to find a plant that can fight it, it's growing in a place that actually has that disease. Flavor is one of the most challenging ones of all. So you can look at color, you can look at plant height, you can look at leaf shape, you can look at variegation, you can look at antho. You can't see flavor.
Right.
So the trickiest part of the Dwarf Project was growing out large enough samplings to find the flavor we want. But then you had to repeat it because it wasn't stable yet. Maybe you found that flavor in the third generation, then you grow out the fourth generation, only one plant. You should have grown 10 because the flavor's there, but you missed it in the one plant that you grew. So flavor is there, but you have to grow out large populations to find it. The other thing that complicates flavor selection is your own palate.
Right.
And because I may breed a dwarf that I love and send it out for somebody else to take on, and they're like, ooh, that tomato, I don't like that flavor, like coyote.
Like coyote, Jen doesn't like it, and it's my favorite cherry. Yeah.
Or it just doesn't like my weather. So it wasn't hot enough in my region to develop, or you didn't get enough sun for enough photosynthesis to fully develop those flavors. I think that last time I was on, I talked about the blind tomato tasting, or just indeed doing a tomato tasting. That's when you really learn about how different people react to different tomato textures and flavors. So when I sat with Joe Lample and did blind tasting, I found out he liked firm tomatoes, and he found out I liked really creamy, juicy, melt in your mouth tomatoes. He saw that softness as a flaw. I see crunchiness as a flaw, and
Yeah.
it's all just what you like. So those little grape
Mhm.
tomatoes in the clam packs, I don't want to crunch when I bite into a
Mhm.
tomato. I want it to go poof, and then
Yeah.
I want the flavor to just imbue my whole mouth and all. So, but if people love grape tomatoes, fine. That's, go for it. It's all what you like. Sun Gold to me is like tomato nirvana. When I eat one of those, it's just remarkable the different flavors, that sensations that pop out.
Yep, it's popular for a reason.
Yeah.
Sherva says her apricot zebra skin is so thick.
Yeah, I don't know if that's related to green zebra or not, but I'm not a huge fan of green zebra. It gets
Me
diseased.
neither.
It gets diseased when I look at it cross-eyed. I simply can't grow it well, and the flavor, it's almost too tart and insipid, bland. There's a word
Yeah.
there to excite my palate. But again, they were like, people would come to my seedling sales and buy them by the boatload.
Yeah, a
So
lot
it's
of people
all,
say it's their favorite green. Not
yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Darcy wants to know if there's gonna be cliff notes for this chat. No,
You have to just endure me for another hour and a
but
half.
it's being recorded, so you can rewatch
Mm.
any of it.
And I'm at the other end of nctomatoman@gmail.com for any questions you need to ask. And that's always the last thing I do before I go to bed at night, is answer the emails until it gets to be gardening time, when sometimes they may sit for a few days. You know what it's like, right? You're
Yep.
tired.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could answer these emails or I could watch the Red Sox, but
Yep.
I find I can't do both.
And he means that, gang. If you have any questions, you
Yeah,
can
yeah, I do.
email him. Missy wants to know, for genetic breeding, does it matter if does the growing environment matter, meaning greenhouse, outdoors, etc.?
No, a lot of breeding is done very successfully in greenhouses because you can kind of control your environment and the number of seasons, and often that is how you can squeeze multiple seasons into 1 year. When we did the Dwarf Project, when we could send seeds back and forth to Australia, it was wonderful to be able to get 2 generations done in a calendar year. And when they cut that, we had to really see if Texas and Florida growers could squeeze in that second, so that we could do 2 generations in one year. But yeah, greenhouses are great. I bet a lot of the micro work is being done in greenhouses, actually.
I have grow lights throughout my basement, so that's where
Yep,
my micro work
yep,
does, and I
yep,
can
yep.
grow out different generations down here.
Oh,
Katrina wants to know, have you found a stable variety that matches up to sun gold? That's always a big question.
there. I, I would say Captain Lucky is probably the closest to a sun gold flavor in a slicing tomato. It really is that good. And that's why I think crossing Captain Lucky and sun gold, I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
That's gonna be
Can it be better?
amazing.
Can it be better than either? Now I know that Keith Muller crossed sun gold with Lucky Cross or Little Lucky, and he created a small bicolor cherry tomato called Sun Lucky that's really, really good. So
Oh,
that gives me hope that we
sun
can
lucky.
find something really good out of that.
Yeah, you see a lot in seed sales and all that, they're like, "They compared this, they say it's even better than sun gold," and then you grow and like, it's not better than sun
I know.
gold.
I know. Well, Dwarf Eagle Smiley from our Dwarf Project is maybe the closest cherry tomato that I've eaten to Sun Gold. That
Yeah.
Justin really found something great in that one.
Oh,
As far as tools I use for doing
oops.
the crosses, I go to Amazon and buy a veggie bee, and veggie bees
Mhm.
are about $20, and they come with a little vibrating tool. No giggles or laughs anywhere, please. Uh, well, it's just one of those weird things when I'm out doing demos and I'm like, "Zzz," it's my neighbors thought I was insane. Um, and a little plastic shiny spoon where you can really see the pollen as it falls in, and a little doesn't come with tweezers. I think I stole a pair of my wife's tweezers, but that's really kind of all you need. Um, the tweezers are really important
Yeah,
because you got to. I know some people that try to do the de-anthering with their fingernails and their hands, but it takes just an incredibly steady hand.
it does. I discovered, so I use an electric toothbrush instead of the veggie bee, but I also
Mhm.
discovered, when you go to a Japanese restaurant, the soup spoon, just
yeah.
flat at the bottom.
Yes,
I
yes,
got black ones,
yes.
and that's how I collect my pollen. The pollen shows up in
Oh,
there and it sits flat. I was pretty proud of myself for that one.
I think you deserve an A for that one. What's really wild is I'll go out and like I'll go up to Cherokee Purple and buzz it, and a whole cloud comes out. Then I'll go up to Mexico Midget, and it's like nothing.
Ugh,
Certain varieties just hold on so tight, and if a wild bee has come and chewed the tip of the anther in the style, you can't get any pollen out of it. So if you look in your plants and if you look at the flowers, you know if they've been visited by a bee, a wild bee, because the whole bottom has been chewed off the flower.
oh,
And
Oh,
all kinds of
interesting.
bees like to get in there and work tomatoes. I rarely see honeybees. Usually I see small bumbles and all kinds of weird hoverflies, and it's just cool to look at your bees as you're walking through your tomato
Yes.
patch.
Jerry wants to know if different grow lights actually make that much of a difference in starting seeds inside.
Well, for starting seeds, you need no lights at all. You need just warmth, because think about, you're burying a tomato seed. It's not even seeing the light. So the warmth is what makes it pop. Beyond that, there are differences in grow lights, and it's important to know how to use them appropriately so you don't burn your seedlings. So with fluorescents, you can lower them right down to the seed. With LEDs, which are more intense, you really have to create more of a distance. I use the sun. I I'm in an area where we start getting 40-degree, 50-degree days quite early. So as soon as they germinate within a week, I just start taking hazy days or partly sunny days where the sunlight's filtering through the pines, and give them an hour, next day 2 hours. So I harden my seedlings off outdoors very, very early and hardly use any lights at all.
Wow,
And I find that
that's
works really good
impressive.
for me. Yep.
All right, this is the one topic we find that
I love it. I
it
can't wait to get
we
into this.
post in the group and it inevitably goes horribly wrong.
We'll be fine with it.
Malin would like to know what you think about the Norfolk, the purple tomato.
Unnecessary, a mistaken release. Another example of putting something out there before all of the ramifications are well thought through, because you're releasing a genetically engineered variety into a country where there's lots of seed savers. And so what happens when the purple pea gene or whatever it is starts getting in tomatoes? What happens to your heirlooms? What happens to your genetic basis? So it was inevitable. It had to happen. I knew in Canada they were working on a purpley tomato that had genes of a blueberry in it. I guess my thing is, if there's money to be made, it's going to happen. The question is what to do after it's in there. And I think back to Monsanto and soybean
Right.
and pollen, and them coming in. You can't save your seed to plant anymore because they've got some of our genes in there. I'll never grow it just because I'm an heirloom grower, and the only hybrid I grow is Sun Gold because I can't do without it, or
Yeah.
my own that I create myself. If anybody wants to grow it, fine. It's just be careful. And I'm just going to be watching and waiting to see what happens with this. A little egg on the face of Baker Creek, of course, by
Oh, yes. A
pre-releasing it
little.
as a GMO. But mistakes happen.
Mm. I think
So
they wanted a sexy tomato for their cover is what I
well, I know it's nature has given us so much wonderful stuff. All of us amateur breeders are creating so much wonderful stuff. Why?
yeah.
And because it's just, at 68 and having gardened for 40 years, I've been able to really cool off my temperature of getting inflamed about these things. And all I can control is what I can control. I can share with people what I do. I will never tell anybody they have to do it this way. I will share what I do and let people decide whether it's for them or it's not for them. And I love learning from other people. So this is like, I'm in heaven doing this stuff. I feel blessed and lucky and all of that stuff.
Well, we're in heaven too, right, Jen?
yes. Well, thank you for
Mm.
sharing. Yes,
All,
absolutely.
all of
Eh,
you here.
And May Lynn, interesting to know what you thought of my response, if you want to put
Yeah, put it
your
in.
impression on there.
I talk with Keena and Jen all the time. I'm like, oh, this because we do pending posts. Somebody will submit something like, look at my purple tomato. And we don't
Mhm.
not allow, we allow it. Or we have to watch the comments because it inevitably gets ugly. And I'm like, why did I allow it in again?
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah, I want to comment on what Linda just said about wisdom. We all have wisdom. Everybody that digs a hole and plants a plant and has it live or has it die or is sent a new tomato from someone who grows and shares the seeds. It's gardening kind of is wisdom, and the world is just so bloody insane right now. I think in my garden is one of the few places I actually find wisdom, in the garden and with other gardeners who care about the world, who want to grow great food that's healthy for everybody. I don't like to get preachy. That's kind of why I do this stuff, is it makes me feel good. And because my grandfather and father kind of planted the seed for doing this when I was very, very young, it's just kind of, it feels like the right thing for me to do. I think of my grandfather and father sitting somewhere chuckling at me going, oh my God, what is he doing? He's doing this weird Instagram thing in his driveway and he's sweating and his dogs are licking his face and he's shaking his camera. But I want to be real about all this stuff. And if I can do that, and if people can kind of trust that what I share with them is what I've done, so it works for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will work for everybody. But ask me, what are the little things that I may not be showing? Or, we're all gardening together. So these opportunities, my friends, are really valuable to me to learn as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We feel the same, and we want to have you back already. So we will talk about that in the future.
Let's do a season review. Let's people can kind of bring what worked, what didn't work, what's their new favorite.
I'm going to have a lot to share of what didn't.
We only can get better.
Lauren, where'd you go? Oh, we lost Lauren.
Thank you all for your kind comments, by the way. I've been just kind of had one eye on, there you are. I mean, I don't even know what I was going to say, but it was fun.
So we have John Kramer, as I mentioned, he's going to give away one hardcover copy and one paperback copy of Craig's book, Epic Tomatoes. And then Craig has very generously agreed to give away some rare seeds for those two winners. So now is your last chance. Type in #tomato really quick. We're going to do the drawing right now, just like this, #tomato. And thank you guys for joining us. We've got 97 live viewers right now.
Cool.
So
wonderful.
What I'll do is I'll find out who wins it, and then I'll get your addresses, and you will get 3 indeterminates that are really unusual and 3 dwarfs, which are really unusual. So
can I win?
What fun.
Can I put my own name in for that?
Lucky.
You guys,
#tomato me.
You guys get anything you want, just ask.
Oh, thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
All right. So we will, if you win, you can private message. If you're in the group, you can private message me. If you're not in the group, let me give you my email address in the comments here. You can email me and then I'll get you in touch with John and Craig and we'll work that out.
This has just been so wonderful.
It's always so much fun with you. It goes so fast.
An hour and a half, man.
I've just been sitting here absorbing it and I'm like, oh, you're just speaking my language. I love it.
Oh, can I ask you one more question?
It's just it's easy going and like you just are great at it.
But in person, I'm a real asshole. No, I'm just kidding.
Jen's right. It's so easy with you. It's just easy. Thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you. It's we'll do it again. We'll keep in touch. Are we giving away the book?
Yeah, we're giving away the book. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
I just remembered you mentioned this in your Instagram today too. This is the first year that Rob and I have decided to top our plants once they reach a certain. I heard you talking about it too. Can you give us your thoughts on why that would be a smart move for some people, maybe?
So for about 38 years. I went through the plants are up. Oh, I don't want to touch them. Look at all those flowers, all that healthy growth. They go over, we get a storm. It breaks the stake. They're all over the ground. And then I thought, most of those little green tomatoes on the very top of the plant are never going to make mature fruit anyway. And so what I do now, each plant this year it's single to a straw bale, which I really like. And I've let 3 suckers develop. So I have 2 stakes. and 2 suckers, and the main and the other sucker go off up 2 poles, 2 each. And then when they get to the top of the pole, I look at the last blossom cluster that's about maybe 6 inches below the top of the stake. I look for one fan of leaves that will hopefully shade those fruit, and then I just snip. That plant will not grow upward anymore. And if the plant's still healthy and they've given me all the tomatoes they need, I can allow other suckers lower on the plant to develop, and then they will flower and they will provide fruit. And just by managing that top growth, you get less fall over, you get less density of foliage, which means you're going to get less. Did I say foliage? Bothers me.
We know what you mean.
Foliage.
Yeah.
And you get less disease. You can actually see what, as I like to say, I like to look at the plumbing of my plants now, and I've never been able to do that before because there's just been too much growth. And 2 stems below, all of a sudden, is 80 of them up at the top of the plant. And that's just way too much. So, the jury's out. I'm looking at this type of pruning and growing to see, will the flavor suffer? Will they be better? The quality of the fruit? So, as I keep doing my Instagram lives, I'll be reporting on what I think. So far, I love it.
Good.
The tomatoes have been beyond delicious. I mean, Sue and I almost can't stand it when we eat some of these. It's like, my God, I can't stand it. My brain's going to explode. My palate's going to fall off.
And that's the goal, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
I'm always looking for a tomato where I say, oh my God. And I found that tomato this year. Bill Yoder's Suffer Well.
Oh, great.
Which is one of his Depeche Mode. It's Berkeley pink tie-dye and Cherokee purple potato
Oh,
leaf.
cool.
And I feel like I can die and be a happy girl.
I'm going to need to get my hands on some of those
Yeah.
then. What else was I going to say? No, we are getting our first canker sores of the year. So,
Oh.
so this week we need to clean out our freezer because my wife is making so much chocolate zucchini bread and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so we had 3 bags of frozen sauce downstairs and 1 upstairs. So I took them all up. I ran a little water on them, and I dumped these big blocks into a roasting pan, and I roasted it down for like 4 hours until it was charred on the top, and it was
That's what I do.
so thick.
Mhm.
And I made a dish using that used baked eggplant rounds and baked summer squash rounds with ricotta cheese and mozzarella cheese. We
Ooh.
ate so much of that. I think we must have ingested so much acid this week
I'm
from all
sure.
of those super concentrated tomatoes that
I call it tomato crack, and I can it.
Yeah.
And I give it away.
Oh,
as
yeah,
gifts.
yeah.
It makes this very brown, ugly
It's
Yep.
so
mush
good.
that tastes like heaven.
Ben
I-
uses it like marinara.
I actually used a bottle of that I canned in 2021, and it was perfect. If you
Mhm.
can it, I do lemon juice, salt,
Yep.
hot water bath,
Yeah,
and it cans
same.
beautifully. And it
Mhm.
doesn't
Yep.
lose any of that tomato flavor.
It doesn't. It
Unbelievable.
doesn't.
Yeah,
Put in fresh herbs from the garden. It's fantastic.
yeah.
All right, let's give away a couple books and seeds. So we've got 80 people who have entered.
Oh wow.
Thank you, Lisa, for your nice little comment there. I like my dense planting technique. I didn't invent it, but I certainly find great use of it. And I think I would say I popularized it. I talked about it.
You did. I want to put that comment on the screen in just a minute. Congratulations, Roxanne.
Hey Roxanne, congratulations.
And then next
the
one.
dinosaur age.
Roxanne, you'll get the hardcover, Roxanne.
Yeah, they're on my website, actually, under my video tab.
And Tara Dove.
Yay,
You'll
Tara
get
Dove.
the soft cover of Epic Tomatoes.
Cool.
So-
That's actually all that I get in stock. I didn't even know there was a hardcover, and one day somebody asked me for it, so I went to Amazon and I went, wow, these are really nice. So I have one.
I think John, who gave the books last time, I think he discovered it too. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Please contact me and I'll
Yep.
make sure it gets to the right people.
And I'll get the seeds to you too.
Craig, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I just want to put up
Yes.
that comment from Lisa.
Thank
that we
you,
were talking
thank you,
about.
thank
So
you.
Lisa said, for you newbies, check out Craig's dense planting videos from the dinosaur age. That's what got me
Yeah.
into growing tomatoes. And you talk about it in Epic Tomatoes too,
I
your
do that,
dense
yeah.
planting technique.
And
It's
you know,
really amazing.
every time Joe Lample's Growing a Greener World pops up, I think we did that in 2015, and I always know where it's playing somewhere because I get a bunch of emails from Wisconsin or from, and they were like, "Oh, can I come visit your garden?" And you're like, "Man, that's 9 years ago. I don't
Is
live
it?
there
'Cause
anymore."
I must have missed it because I just posted it in the group last week thinking it was new.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Growing Your Greener
oh.
World was from, I think, just after the book came out. He came and visited, and we did that taping. It was a lot of fun. And oh, I'm getting a suspected spam call. Should we answer it and we can see what they're trying to tell me?
So thank you, Craig LeHoullier,
Yeah, you're very
so,
welcome.
so much
Yes,
for
thank
being
you
here
so
with us
much. It's
again.
always wonderful to have you.
All
Thanks.
right, keep gardening. Let me know how things go, and we'll plan the next
Yes.
one.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks to all of our live viewers. Thanks for
Yes,
being
thank
here.
you so
If
much
you're
for being
watching
here.
the
Thanks, everybody.
recording, we honor you as well. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Peace, love,
everyone.
get your gratitude on. Go grow tomatoes, gang.
Enjoy your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.